At this hour, I'm Christina, Aguayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories.
Voters in Arizona have approved a measure that lets local police arrest migrants who crossed into the state illegally from Mexico. Proposition 314 also allows state judges to order their deportation. In addition, law enforcement would be shielded from all civil lawsuits. It has become the latest state to take border security into its own hands after they say the federal government grossly failed the American people by allowing tens of millions of illegals into the country. Arizona becomes the latest state to test the limits of what local authorities can do to curb illegal migration, with GOP lawmakers in Texas, Iowa, and Oklahoma passing similar immigration measures within the last year. In each case, federal courts have halted the state's efforts to enforce them. Republicans in the Arizona legislature say the measure is needed to help secure the border, and it isn't their first. They approved a migrant smuggling ban in 2005, banned employers from hiring illegal migrants in 2007, and required police to ask the legal status of suspected illegal migrants in 2010. Special counsel Jack Smith is evaluating how to wind down the two federal cases against Donald Trump before he takes office in light of long-standing Justice Department protocol that says a sitting president cannot be prosecuted. Smith charged Trump last year with election interference and allegedly possessing classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago estate. However, the Supreme Court ruling on immunity all but gutted both of his cases. Now that Trump has been elected to become the 47th president of the United States of America, he can no longer face prosecution. Attorney General Merrick Garland appointed Smith back in November of 2022 to take over the Justice Department's investigations into Trump. The legitimacy of that appointment has been hotly contested since that time. President Trump pleaded not guilty to all charges and said Smith was working a politically motivated prosecution aimed at helping Biden's and then Harris's campaign against him. Former federal prosecutor Nathan Hochman has won election as the Los Angeles County District Attorney. He defeated the Soros-backed super liberal George Gascon, unseating an incumbent known as the godfather of progressive prosecutors. During the campaign, Hochman highlights Gascon's soft on crime approach and criticized him for policies like banning prosecutors in his office from seeking the death penalty and various sentencing enhancements, stopping the prosecution of juveniles as adults, and ending cash bail for misdemeanors and nonviolent felonies. His victory reflects a growing frustration across the state and elsewhere with progressive district attorneys who have pushed criminal justice reform. Hochman was backed by local police unions. He is an independent who previously ran as a Republican for California Attorney General. Florida, Nebraska, and South Dakota are the first states to shut down measures to enshrine abortion on their state constitutions since Roe v. Wade was overturned and the power to decide was given back to the states. By rejecting adding abortion rights to their state constitution, Florida voters kept a ban on abortion after the first 6 weeks of pregnancy in place. It's the first time abortion rights groups have lost in a statewide ballot question since the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe. Arizona, Colorado, Maryland, Montana, and Nevada voters adopted such measures, and New Yorkers passed an amendment to ban discrimination on the basis of pregnancy outcomes. Nevada voters also approved an amendment, but they'll need to pass it again in 2026 for it to take effect. An attorney for Karen Reed argued in front of the state's highest court that several charges related to the death of her Boston police officer boyfriend should be dropped. Reed is accused of ramming into John O'Keefe with her SUV and leaving him to die in a snowstorm in January of 2022. A judge declared a mistrial in June after finding that jurors couldn't reach an agreement. However, a retrial on the same charges is set for next year. The defense is making the same arguments they made in briefs to the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court that trying Reed again on charges of second-degree murder and leaving the scene would be unconstitutional double jeopardy. China's President Xi Jinping congratulated Donald Trump on his U.S. presidential win and urged both nations to find the right way to get along as looming U.S. tariffs threaten to return them to the days of a trade war years ago. Meanwhile, South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol talked to President Donald Trump, had a 12-minute phone call, and discussed the close security and economic ties of their two countries. Laura Westbrook reports.
Chinese President Xi Jinping reportedly told Donald Trump that China and the US would benefit from cooperation and lose from confrontation. He also said that a stable US-China relationship was in the interests of both countries. Donald Trump has campaigned on a promise to increase tariffs on Chinese imports to 60%. Other Asian leaders have also congratulated Donald Trump, including South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol, who spoke to him on the phone. The two reportedly shared concerns about North Korean troops being sent to Russia in its war against Ukraine, as well as Pyongyang's ballistic missile launches. In Hong Kong, Laura Westbrook for Salem News Channel.
The U.S. stock market, Elon Musk's Tesla, banks, and Bitcoin are storming higher as investors bet on what President Donald Trump's return to the White House will mean for the economy and the world. The Dow Jones Industrial Average jumped 1,438 points, or 3.4%. The S&P 500 rose 2.4%, and the Nasdaq Composite rose 2.8%. BMW reported a 61% drop in its third quarter profit, missing analyst expectations because of slumping sales in China and brake problems, sending its shares to their lowest level in more than 2.5 years. The automaker's revenue fell 15.7% from a year earlier.
In Dallas, Christina, Aguayo, Salem News Channel.